facilitate training for naval pilots primarily. Herlong was turned back over to the city after World War II, and a few years after that it was turned over to the Jacksonville Port Authority. And that's the history of our airport. And as you know, the past few years we're now the Jacksonville Aviation Authority, but very similar to their stories as well. Cecil Field obviously lasted a little bit longer in the military than we did, but.
And what about Craig? Is it the
similar to what Doug said? Craig was in the 1940s built by the U.S. military, one of 6 airports in the area of Jacksonville for training. In the 1960s, the airports were transferred over to the Port Authority, and now with their Aviation Authority. Craig is actually named after a fallen Navy commander, James Edwin Craig, who served in Pearl Harbor. So that's how we got our name.
Okay. There's a lot of great history with Craig, and is there a story behind Herlong's name?
Yes, it was named after a doctor who was also a city councilman back in the 30s, I believe. I don't remember his first name, but his last name was Herlong.
His last name was Herlong. We do have that. Exactly. And Cecil's story, although they started off as a military base.
Yeah, we started in 1941 as a training auxiliary field, actually. And it was decommissioned in 1946, 47. And then the military with jet technology wanted to have a master jet base with long runways. So they commissioned Cecil Field in Jacksonville here, and in 1952 reopened it as a master jet base. 93, BRAC commission was put on the BRAC list.
Can you explain, I'm sorry, what BRAC is?
Base realignment and closure.
Okay, thank you.
And what had happened was we had 6 years of transition. October 1st, 1999. Then the Jacksonville Airport Authority, the Jacksonville Port Authority took over the airport as the 4th airport. And we are coming up on our 10-year anniversary.
That's incredible.
This year.
10 years.
October 1st will be 10 years that we've had Cecil Field.
A lot's happened in those 10 years. It's been a
very
busy time, and we'll get to that as well, because there's a lot going on at all of the airports. So each airport has its purpose and its role, and so I imagine you cater to a particular type of tenants. You mentioned some of the tenants that you have, which includes some governmental type of tenants. And when we say tenants, that's because the Aviation Authority owns the property, right? Owns all the land and the hangars and buildings, and then we lease or rent space or hangars and facilities to these various tenants to do business out there. So, Tiffany, what type of tenants do you have? You mentioned you have flight schools and corporate things. So, what's the ambiance of your airport? What type of tenants really enjoy being out at Craig?
Well, we have a mixture, as I mentioned before. We have a lot of business activity, whether it be corporations that lease hangar space for their aircraft or services from our fixed base operator. We also have our flight schools. We have one flight school that's actually tied to a university, Jacksonville University, here, Delta Connection, and then we also we do charter operations. We have tenants that just love aviation. We also do banner towing. We get a lot of calls and requests for banner towing, so we have a banner towing operator. And then we also have, which I don't consider them necessarily a tenant, but unlike Herlong Airport, we do have a contract tower where our tower is operated not 24/7, but during key times throughout the 7-day work period.
Now, just because I'm curious, your tower is not open 24 hours, but planes can still land anytime. So do they use the same system that they use at Herlong when the tower's not in operation, or how does that work?
Yes, they use the same, just even though that the tower is not operated during certain times. They're normally operated from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. Monday through Friday, and then a little modified schedule on the weekends from 7 a 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. During the times where the tower is not operated, aircraft still can take off and land. They use they have a dedicated frequency where they call in like they would ask for a tower to tell them what they're doing, and it's monitored as well.
Okay, very interesting course. Cecil, do you have a contract
we have a control
tower as well?
FCT program. It's excuse me, FAA. It's an FAA tower operated under contract.
Okay.
Like Tiffany, it works throughout the day and night. I think we're 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. 7 days a week. And after hours, then they use CTAF, which is a common frequency, where they can report their position in the airfield if they're taking off or landing. Interestingly, when we're out there doing checks after hours, we even get on the radio if we're driving on the airfield and say, in the vehicles that we're crossing a runway, just to let everybody know. It's a common frequency, so everybody can listen and find out what's going on.
Keep everybody safe and on the straight and narrow. And Doug, you mentioned some of your tenants as recreational, and are there any others? And what's the type of tenant that enjoys using
We've got a variety of tenants at Hurlong. We will have over 100 T hangars in the next month.
Explain what a T hanger is.
T hanger is a independent, or it's a storage unit for an aircraft. It's shaped like a T, if you will, and same shape as an aircraft, and it fits an aircraft nicely. So we have 7 rows of T hangars, which would come out to about 102 units, all of which will be full as soon as the 7th row is built, which should be by the end of this month. And so within 102 units, you'll have a variety of different type of aircraft, from light sport aircraft to ultralights to warbirds, old warbirds. We have a Texan that's based there. We have a Stearman that's based there. So some unique aircraft that are at Hurlong. And not only the T hangar tenants, we also have commercial aviation businesses there, as well as non-aviation businesses. We have a company called Corporate Air Repair, where it's a maintenance facility for aircraft, and they work on a lot of the aircraft at Hurlong. But they also have aircraft that fly in from other airports, Craig, Ocala, to get service there, because they're very qualified, very good maintenance facility. So we get a lot of King Airs will come in and get repairs there. And we have skydive. If you like to jump out of airplanes, you can come to Hurlong, and you can do that there if you so choose. No, I have not.
Oh, come on. As the airport manager, you should experience all these things.
And you should come with me. You come with me and we'll both do it.
No, I'll take pictures.
But,
that's my role, take pictures.
Well, in that case, I'll stay on the ground or in a plane, but I'm not jumping out. But we do have skydive operations. We have a number of flight schools that are there. We have aircraft sales that are there as well. We have a company called Southeast LSA that sells light sport aircraft. There's aircraft that generally run just over $100,000. So relatively speaking, it's an inexpensive aircraft for a brand new airplane. They're there as well. We have a company called Quasar and a company called Eagle that offer flight training. We have non-aviation businesses, construction businesses. We have a company called A&M Motorcycle, which if you need your motorcycle endorsement, you can get that at Hurlong. We have Acme Barricades, Advanced Disposal. We have a variety of tenants at Hurlong.
Who'd have thought that you'd have those types? I actually got my motorcycle endorsement at Cecil. Sorry. So had I known, it's so much closer.
I could have saved you a few bucks.
Exactly. Well, one of the big issues with commercial airports, obviously since September 11th, 2001, is security. Security of the passengers flying and of the luggage going inside the aircraft. Now, as a general aviation airport, you're not exactly under those types of regulations, but I know that we have been very proactive in wanting to be security and safety conscious at all of our airports. So let's talk, we only have a few minutes left, but let's talk about the security processes that have been put in place at each of your individual airports. And whoever speaks first can start.
We'll start with Craig.
All right, Craig.
Well, we do have, we take security very seriously at all 4 of our airports in the system. At Craig specifically, we have perimeter fencing around the airfield. We also have control access gates where you either put in a PIN number or use an access control badge to enter and exit the facility. We recently participated in a Florida Department of Transportation security demonstration for, I think it was 4 or 5 airports that were selected based on the type of airport. Craig was chosen because we represent a good busy airport, and it was testing Central Command response using technology. Our police department was involved, the airport tenants were involved in it, and we actually were able towards the end to do a scenario where we tested the system where you could actually get intel and see how that information remotely could be communicated to responding units on the location. So, and we're looking to actually keep that that type of equipment. So we're always looking at security and safety at the airport. Each airport has an airport watch program, similar to like a neighborhood watch, where we work with our tenants. We've established or will be establishing security consortiums at each airport to basically work with our tenants again and our airport users on what we can do to enhance security, to educate, and as well as look at the areas where we could be vulnerable.
Right. Well, very interesting. And what about at the other airports?
Oh.
I know perimeter fencing is...
I think we're all probably pretty similar.
Right.
We have badging procedures. You know, we mirror our security to JIA's, to the 139 airport. And we all have security fencing, badging, access control. We are in the midst of upgrading and putting in better technology, newer technology now, new cameras, access control in real time, which has always been a problem for general aviation airports, because typically you had to program it in and then you'd have to physically go out to that gate and reprogram again. Now we'll be able to do it from our desk. Right. So there we are upgrading our security posture at the airports.
Now, I know prior to 9/11, when security was such an issue, and we've been very proactive in that, tenants probably had a lot more ease and accessibility. Overall, have the tenants been very favorable about having a more secure airport to work and play in?
They embrace it. Our tenants really do embrace it because it improves their security means. And we have a lot of security conscious tenants out there, and they really want to see the security.
At Herlong, it's a very close-knit community. Pretty much everyone knows everyone. So if you're not recognized by one of the tenants, they immediately let someone know. And so they embrace it as well, and they're very active in ensuring that the airport is secure. So it's almost like we have over 100 little security officers running around at Herlong Airport.
And that's a good thing, because that's really the premise of having the airport watch program, is that you know who's got business out at the airport and report. I'm sure there are processes in place as far as reporting suspicious behavior or suspicious people. Well, very good. Well, believe it or not, we're out of time. So, and we didn't get to everything that I wanted to, and so that means I'll just have to have you come back another time. You're all excited, right? On camera. Well, let me take a moment to thank all of you so much, not only for being a guest, but for all the hard work and representing our airport system so effectively. Rusty Chandler, Airport Manager of Cecil Field, Tiffany Gillum, Airport Manager of Craig Airport, and Doug Fayor, Airport Manager of Herlong Airport. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you for being here. We hope to see you on our next program.